They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had marquee wins at some point.
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day, like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Happy Monday. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A wild week of college and pro football with some massive upsets in the NFL yesterday. We'll get to them all. We'll break it all down with Adam Kaplan, our SportsGrid insider. Also, Joe Ranieri weighs in, as well as Vinny Iyer from Sporting News. We'll also cover the latest in the pennant chase in Major League Baseball. The postseason begins next week. This is the final week of regular season action in baseball as well. We'll also dive into the latest in sports betting, of course, with our guest contributor, Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. So that and a whole lot more on this edition of the show. Let's get started with last night's game, which was one of the few duds on the board. How about that? The Kansas City Chiefs finally get themselves a win. It required them going to East Rutherford in the Meadowlands to get the victory in New Jersey, 22-9. Seventh game that the Giants, by the way, have scored fewer than 10 points since the start of last season. They just keep on struggling offensively. That's the most in the NFL and 4 more than any other team. Maybe they should have kept their starting quarterback, who's 3-0. Here's Patrick Mahomes on the great defensive performance for the Chiefs, and also Brian Daboll on what is next.
We just executed better. I mean, I think the first few drives, we drove the ball really well down the football field. We just had mistakes and penalties and, alignment stuff that we're going to have to clean up for sure. But I feel like we were moving the ball the right way. Kind of struggled there at the end of that second quarter, but was able to get points at the end. But it was just finishing the drives. And I think that's something that's important in this league is getting touchdowns, not field goals. And when you score touchdowns, it looks a lot better than when you're kicking long field goals.
So I thought we battled defensively. Had a good plan. They made a couple nice plays there in the second half, but there's a lot of things improved defensively. Gave us a chance. Thought we did a good job in the kicking game and fell short offensively. We ran the ball much better. Our passing game was not good enough, particularly on third down. So we were like 1 of 10 on third down. That's hard to sustain drives and put points on the board. So. But I thought defensively we did some good things, and in the kicking game we did as well.
One of the games of the day in the NFL came right down to the wire. The Eagles blocked 2 field goals to complete their comeback against the Rams, 33-26. And that's how the Eagles ended up covering that 3.5-point spread and a blocked field goal all the way down the field for the touchdown. Really tough beat if you had the Rams yesterday. Good thing I did not. Here's Nick Sirianni on just closing out the Rams, which of course was a bit of a surprise considering how the first half went.
That's what, that's what the process is for. And I know our guys respect the process. I know our guys are hungry. I know our guys know that we're going to get people's best shots, which will only make us better. That's a really good football team with really good players. Can't tell you, all the way around, they've done a great job building that football team, and they got phenomenal football coaches. They had us on the ropes, and our guys found a way to keep getting up and found a way.
I'm proud of this football team. I'm excited about the response. This is week 3. We got a lot of growth that we still can have. Came out, took control of the football game. Ultimately, not being able to finish in the red area. We weren't good enough on third downs. Some uncharacteristic, things that we could execute on. And then credit to them. They ended up making some plays. They got back in it. We came out here to win the football game. Those were our expectations. It's a disappointed locker room, but it's a locker room that's going to respond. And so it's week 3. And there's a lot of things that took part in that game. We lost that game as a team. We took the lead as a team. And we're going to, these are the chances to be able to lean in and see what you're really about. And so that's a tough one today. I love this group, and I'm excited about growing. And whether we found a way to make that kick or whether we ended up having that result right there, we got to be able to keep it moving. We've got a lot of football left.
The Indianapolis Colts are 3-0. They defeat the Titans yesterday 41-20. Jonathan Taylor had 3 touchdowns in this game yesterday. Daniel Jones has led the way, and Indy's one of the best teams in the NFL through 3 games. Here's Jones's success.
I don't know. I think obviously we're running it well. JT, had another big time day. I think huge credit to him and how he's been playing, and then the guys up front, and they're blocking, and the run game's been big, and then guys are getting open and making plays in the pass game with some explosive plays and stuff down the field. So I think a lot of credit to the guys up front. I think it starts there in the run game and the pass game, and then playing off of that. I think we certainly expect to play at a high level. I think every time we step out there, every time we get the ball, we expect to execute and go down the field and score. So no, I don't think the expectation changes at any point, whether we're playing regardless of how it's going. So, I think that stays that way, and we'll see. There's still things we got to clean up and work on. I think still, some missed opportunities, things that weren't as sharp as they should have been, and we'll go back, look at that, and clean it up.
A lot of turnovers yesterday for the New England Patriots. That led to their demise as the Steelers win and cover the 1.5. 21-14 the final. Aaron Rodgers threw 2 touchdown passes, but really it was New England giving the ball away in the red zone and at the goal line. Here's Aaron Rodgers on the win.
Just our defense, honestly. I mean, there was urgency. I think, it was one of those weird disjointed games. We had 3 possessions in the first half. We had a chance on the third possession to keep it going. Pat and I weren't on the same page on the scramble drill. Then we sat on the bench for what seemed to be 20 or 30 minutes. So we just couldn't get to a rhythm at all. And then we came out second half. I made a terrible throw. Defense just kind of stood on their head all day. But, I thought the first 2 drives were really good rhythm-wise, and we just couldn't find that rhythm in the second half.
You did it at the end. What's that say about the offense resiliency, stick to it?
I mean, it's what we're supposed to do. We got to make those plays. So we're not in those positions. 14-0, we're feeling pretty damn good about ourselves. We haven't been ahead by 2 scores yet, and 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, starting fast for the 3rd straight week. But I just didn't play great, and we kind of lost our rhythm, had too many penalties and negative yardage plays, and didn't make them pay when we had opportunities.
Biggest upset of the weekend in Cleveland, the Browns defeat the Packers. Green Bay 7.5-point road favorites. Matt LaFleur not too keen on taking the L.
Well, that was extremely disappointing. Obviously, to be in a position to win the game at the end of the game and to have the script totally flip on you with a block and then them getting into field goal range, it's tough. It's tough to deal with, but you better learn from each and every opportunity that you go out there and in the wins and in the losses, and you got to move on. So, I thought there were a lot of things, a lot of positives in regards to how our defense competed and played. through 4 quarters. But one thing that we have to get corrected is, I mean, when you have 14 penalties in a game, it's going to be tough to overcome that. So we got to do a much better job of coaching the fundamentals, the details, and then we got to lock in at a higher level in regards to some of the controllable penalties, whether it's false starts or offsides or whatever you have. But ultimately, this is a total team sport. I thought we played well enough defensively to win the game and didn't do a good enough job on offense and on special teams.
All right, let's close out the segment with the rest of the National Football League results. We've got the Chargers defeating the Broncos 23-20. They're 3-0 on the season. The Jets blocked a field goal late in the game, ran it all the way back for a touchdown. They end up covering but not winning 29-27 against Tampa Bay. 49ers squeak by the Arizona Cardinals 16-15 despite giving up a safety late in the game there. And Caleb Williams tied a career high with 4 touchdown passes as the Bears could not be stopped against Dallas 31-14. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Vinny Iyer of Sporting News to go over those NFL results. Don't go away.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
And I'll tell you, there are a lot of happy faces at Prime Video and its parent company, Amazon. The first Thursday Night Football game of their season was this past Thursday, and they got 17 million plus. And that is the best viewership they have had in the run of TNF. More than that, the internet and social media response to it was terrific. A lot of people felt that Al Michaels and Curb Street have now really come into their own as a play-by-play team.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Credit to the Giants, who were so good in April and then since then just kind of fell apart. Now they're back in it again. I think the Mets will get in, but it is fascinating that they'll play the Marlins here the last 3 games of the season. And I know without a doubt that the Marlins are going to line up Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and top guys to try and beat the Mets.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Vinny Iyer is with us from Sporting News to go over the latest in the National Football League, get some results, and talk about what they mean for the future. Vinny, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Let's start with last night, man, kind of a dud, honestly, between the Chiefs and the Giants. Looked like it could be a competitive game in the first half, and it was good to see Cam Scatterbo get involved for the Giants, and maybe that's what they'll do moving forward. But, this is kind of the template for how the Chiefs won a lot of games, honestly, last year, Vinny, which is just basically through defense, make a couple of timely plays. So their losing streak is over and the Giants continue.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants, I mean, this is a matchup we didn't expect of two 0-2 teams this early in the season, but you saw a lot of 0-2 teams play with some energy. Obviously, the Browns were able to win their game. Just some bad teams, the Panthers coming out and destroying the Falcons. So the Giants, however, did not show that type of life. The Chiefs did on their side in desperation mode. But look, the Chiefs are going to have to grind out a few wins. I mean, there's some age creeping in. Look, they're still a young team overall, but at key spots, there's some age concerns, including Travis Kelce. They've done a good job manufacturing offense with Tyquan Thornton coming there. They didn't do much to get him from the Patriots, so he's been helpful. I mean, maybe he saved their season early with some of the plays he's made. So next they get the Ravens, however, at home. So we'll see. They've got to keep up that momentum, or it could be a big hole in the AFC race early against Buffalo and Baltimore if Kansas City can't win that game. But I think they have a good shot at taking down the Ravens. The Ravens will be coming to Arrowhead on a short week after playing on Monday night.
You sense that this is it for Russell Wilson? I know he had the really nice game against Dallas, but now that I look at what the Bears did, I'm not sure it means a heck of a lot. 2 interceptions, 160 yards. I mean, honestly, if Dable wants to coach again, doesn't he have to put in Jackson Dart at this point?
Yeah, it's a very tough situation for him because he might have said, okay, I got to play the veteran to make us look respectable, but they're not respectable right now. And Cam Scotabo, you saw, they put him in via the injury to Tyrone Tracy Jr., provided a spark to the offense. What bad could Jackson Dart do, right? I mean, I think this is what the Giants fans want to see anyway. Get these young players in there. They're playing the Chargers next week, so the brutal schedule continues early in the season. Yeah. Los Angeles is 3-0 coming into New York, so I think next could be the week because I think they could get embarrassed in that game against Jim Harbaugh.
In the past, you've mentioned the Chargers, and that's a tough game for anybody to play in the NFL. But I mean, Vinny, yesterday really feels like the changing of the guard for them because not only were they involved in a close game, but they won one at the end and they didn't give it away. I mean, these are not the Chargers of years ago, just passing and throwing picks or missing kicks. I mean, they win 23-20. They're 3-0 on the season. And on FanDuel right now, they're as heavy a favorite to win that division as they've been in a really, really long time. 3-0 minus 155 on FanDuel. And also conversely, I would say the Broncos did not do themselves any favors. I don't know what was going on with Bo Nix yesterday. It felt like he missed a lot of big throws.
Yeah, he's going through a sophomore slump for sure. I mean, it's not as bad as Michael Penix Jr. or some of these other quarterbacks have come out of the gate in year 2, but it's not as clean for sure. And then the Chargers, look, the biggest thing that Jim Harbaugh brought was mental and physical toughness. And the mental is just as important, being able to win these close games, because we used to make fun of them. We used to call them chargering when they did their thing in late games and blew it, right? But now look at the Kansas City game. Look at the Denver game. These are critical early division games. They're 3-0, and they're 3-0 in AFC West play, right? Because they beat the Raiders in between. So that's as good as a start you can ask for if you're trying to win a division. And again, they get the Giants next week. You figure they'll get to the quarter point of the season at 4-0, and I think they're really feeling it. I mean, Harbaugh, this should not be surprised anyone. I mean, the turnaround last year, everyone expected it, but you give him a couple years somewhere, we know what happens. He usually ends up near the championship.
Yeah, of course, it happened everywhere he's been, including his most recent stops with Michigan, and then before that, the San Francisco 49ers. All right, so what a cover it was if you had the Eagles yesterday, and you want to just throw something if you had the Rams. I mean, my gosh, not only did they block a kick, but they blocked a kick and ran it all the way back for a touchdown in the end to end up getting a cover. I mean, that is crazy. Eagles win 33-26. A rare situation here where, I'm going to give credit to the Eagles for coming all the way back. But, man, Vinny, Sean McVay got super conservative at the end of this game. I just wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I think the field goals early in the game kind of set the tone for this, that they were getting stuck trying to just finish drives, right? And then they had the 4 field goals early. Then I think the Eagles caught on to some of the things that Cardi was doing with his field goal kicking, because they saw plenty of it earlier in the game. So then, I think that's essentially what cost the Rams. They couldn't punch in a few of those drives in the red zone. They had to keep relying on the field goals, and the field goals burned them at the end. And I'm surprised. I thought the Eagles would just fall down after that block because, again, if they had fumbled it again on the return and the Rams had took it the other way, they might have lost the game. So it was very strange, but I think all the Eagles bettors will take it.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's move real quick over to the final game on the board that we're going to talk about, and then we'll get to tonight real quick. Colts are 3-0. Titans are 0-3. Colts have to get a ton of credit for putting up these kind of offensive numbers. They finally punted yesterday for the first time, 41-20. Jonathan Taylor looks like the best running back in the NFL again, like he did a few years ago. And it's not time to start asking if the Colts are legit. It's time to start asking, Vinny, how far can this team go?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts have to be very confident right now. They have a good test. I think this is a great test, actually, for both teams this week. It's at the Rams, so we'll see how good they are, getting a little bit of a test from a really tough NFC foe right now. If you look at their body of work, I mean, the Dolphins, Broncos, and the Titans, they're not the upper tier AFC teams at this rate. So this is a very good test for them this week to see how far they've come. But really, the eye test just tells you they're more put together. They're more what Shane Steichen wants offensively. And go figure, Daniel Jones, after the Giants discarded him, I mean, he just seems to be a perfect fit in what they're trying to do.
Yeah, let's close it out. Monday Night Football, Lions, Ravens. Ravens pretty big favorites tonight, 5.5. I mean, Lions are very tough to go against when they're at home, but when they're on the road, it's kind of 50-50 here. Total 53.5. So that tells me a high-scoring game, but I'm not sure who comes out on top. You have a position tonight?
Yeah, I do like the Ravens to win, but I think the Lions are going to maybe try to keep it closer than they have in the past. I mean, they got blown out 38-6 in this matchup just a couple of years ago. So I think the Ravens defense is not that shutdown level at this point. So I think the Lions are going to be able to score some points. I think the Lions can also maybe slow down the run just enough to keep them in this game.
All right. Thanks, Vinny, for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll be right back.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
What a fun weekend it was in the National Football League. It does continue tonight, and of course we'll have previews of the games coming up, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's circle back to some of the teams that fell yesterday and get some reactions from Jerry Jones of the Cowboys, Aaron Glenn, the head coach of the Jets, and the 0-3 Houston Texans looking for answers too. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, there's no question who has the worst defense in the NFL. It's got to be the Dallas Cowboys. My gosh, the Bears just did everything they wanted to do yesterday against Dallas from the start of the game to the finish. And by the way, the score doesn't even indicate what a blowout this was. 31-14. It could have been a lot worse. Jerry Jones, his responsibility for making this team better doesn't appear to be that way, especially after the loss in Chicago yesterday.
Huge win for them, as it should be here at home, and plus with what they're trying to do with their franchise, the Bears are the Bears.
How concerned are you with the big plays again on defense?
Well, those big plays on either side will eventually take the heart out of you when you get a bunch of them. And I will tell you, I thought a lot of our team really hung in there, getting hit on the end of the nose with some pretty big haymakers there. Those what we call dominant plays over 20 yards, and those will take it out of you finally. Not only do they take it out of you field position and scores, but it'll take it out of you too. I thought our guys hung in good. We came out ready to play. I thought we ran the ball about as well as I've seen us run the ball, but it wasn't enough when you have the guys open that we've got, and some of the things we did to that fumble hurt us on that first drive, but in general, they came back out the second half, though, and took it to us physically. So give them their due.
Offensively, it seems like the Cowboys can hang in, but defense going to be a question for them all season. Aaron Glenn was brought over to the New York Jets to get things going in the right direction. That direction thus far is 0-3. Spirited comeback yesterday to keep things close. Glenn looking for some silver linings in a winless start.
As a coach, how do you balance? I mean, you stressed the positives about how they didn't quit, you know, but at the other, there's no moral victories, and you are 0-3 right now.
Yeah.
So how do you present that to the team in terms of a balance?
Well, you just said it. We're 0-3. We're 0-3. How many more games do we have left?
14.
That speaks for itself. We have a lot of games to go play, and you can build on this. You can build on this. The one thing I don't do, which I understand that New York media tries to do, is the negative parts of it, but I'm not going to be that way. I'm going to let you guys deal with that. We're going to look at the things that we did well, and we're going to continue to push forward because we're going to improve, and we're going to make sure we get over that hump. I do know that.
Sauce Gardner, you didn't mention him among the injuries.
Well, he came back in. Yeah. Make sure you look at the game.
All right, tough start for Aaron Glenn. Seems to be losing it just a bit. All right. Houston Texans also surprisingly 0-3 at the start of the season. Their offense can get nothing going whatsoever. Their offensive line can't block, and they definitely made some key mistakes at the end of that game against Jacksonville. Here's D'Amico Ryans, who wants to see some cleaner football out of his squad.
Yeah, for us, we just got to find a way to play cleaner football, right? Today, when you have the penalties that we had to kind of knock us back a lot offensively, defensively, penalty in the end zone, you turn the ball over 3 times, that's tough to win in this league. It's tough enough to win, but when you put yourself in position where you're helping the opponent, that's just not a good recipe for winning football. So until we clean up the things we can clean up, right, then we play winning football, then we'll have a chance to turn it around. But again, man, we're close. That's what it is. We're close, but close isn't good enough. So we got to pick it up and find a way to get a win. For sure, we're going down to score. I mean, we give the ball to one of our best players, Nico. We trust him with the football. He knows it. I know he hates it more than anyone else to have the ball, taken away from him there. So that was tough. We felt the momentum shift there when we hit the big touchdown and we're driving down and we're in position to drive and score again, and you give the ball away, right, in the plus territory in the red zone. That's hard.
Let's take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, we'll break down what the Chicago Bears win means to Ben Johnson after getting his first win of the season. Also, the biggest upset of the NFL season comes in Cleveland. Can the Browns build on getting their first win against the Green Bay Packers? We'll try to answer those questions and a whole lot more with our next guest. It's Jacob Kamaker from USA Today. Also, don't forget, we got plenty more to come and getting you ready for Monday Night Football with our game time decisions and in-game live programming. We'll be back on NewsWire after this.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Jacob Kamiker is with us from USA Today to break down the latest in the NFL. Let's bring Jacob in and get to some teams that are feeling a lot better about their seasons after just one win on Sunday. Jacob, Bears and Browns both getting surprising wins. I guess Bears less surprising considering they were a short dog, but let's start off with them. Ben Johnson gets his first win. Really fun action. A flea flicker involved in this one too. You didn't see that coming. 31-14. I think I could definitively say I'm not sure where the Bears are, Jacob, where the Bears are, but I definitely can say the Cowboys have the worst defense in the NFL. I've seen enough.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on Dallas. I mean, their defense has been terrible. We all knew that when they traded Micah Parsons, the defense was going to be a problem because if you take away your best pass rusher, doesn't just impact the defensive line. It also impacts the secondary in the way that, you know, if you're not getting as much pass rush pressure on these quarterbacks, they're going to have more time to find openings. So we're seeing that play out with the Cowboys. But the Bears, I was impressed with them on offense. I thought Ben Johnson did a good job of creatively kind of exploiting ways to attack that Dallas defense. I mean, you talked about the flea flicker, which, look, the execution of that play, the pitch back from DeAndre Swift was pretty ugly. Like, watching that live, I was like, oh my goodness, this might not end well. But the fact that it did speaks well to Johnson's creativity and just shows like, hey, it's going to take some time, but Caleb Williams, if they can get him comfortable, he should be able to kind of operate within this offense and look good. We saw a flash of that yesterday. Wouldn't put a ton of stock into it because of the quality of the defense they're playing, but still a step in the right direction after, you know, the first 2 weeks where they were really, really down and out.
As I suspected, the Seahawks did crush the Saints. I think that's probably the most popular survivor pick. The Saints' luck now over. They're going to have to go to Buffalo now. It's going to get tough for them, I think, the rest of the season. But the other survivor pick that maybe people could have gravitated to would have been taking the Packers over the Browns. They were 7.5-point favorites, so you had to choose, do I go with the home team? Do I go with the road team? If you went with the road team, you're out of your survivor pool. The Browns came all the way back to win this one, shockingly, 13-10. And Jacob, it felt very tenuous for Green Bay through 3 quarters. They just couldn't pull away from Cleveland. And then they scored, so you're like, all right, well, Cleveland's going to cover this one. But if you're a Packers fan or survivor picker, you're like, all right, well, the Packers are going to win, of course. And then they just go down in the end. Biggest upset of the season, easily.
Yeah, I think maybe the people who had Survivor can blame me for this one because the Packers were my Survivor pick this week, and I have a history of losing early in the season, so I'll take the blame on that one. But certainly this game, when you were watching it, it just felt strange because you're saying to yourself, the Packers really looked like this team in the NFC that was going to challenge the Eagles. They had an elite tier defense. Jordan Love looked great through a couple of weeks. But then, they ran into this Browns team. And I think the Browns have flown a little under the radar for what they're doing on defense. I know that sounds strange to say because they just surrendered like 41 points to the Ravens in week 2. But they are playing very well against the run. Opposing running backs are averaging only 2.2 yards per carry against them this year. And they've played in back-to-back weeks Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs, who they have limited. And they ended Josh Jacobs' touchdown streak at like 11 straight games with the rushing touchdown. So the Browns' run defense is legit. So if they can render teams one-dimensional and make opposing quarterbacks beat them, they might be able to get some wins by doing that. I know it sounds crazy, but if the Browns had a better situation at quarterback, Joe Flacco has not been good through 3 weeks. We might be talking about them as hey, this is a scrappy team that might be more competitive than you think. But right now, they're really leaning on their defense. But we did see their defense can win them games against teams that, we expect to be NFC contenders. So that's a good sign for Kevin Stefanski's squad.
Packers still favored to win the North minus 150 and still have 7-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. They're just not going to go undefeated. I would guess they'll bounce back. All right, so the Jaguars took on the Texans in a game who wanted it the least, it felt like here. I'm still bullish on Jacksonville, but man, I got to tell you, like I don't know of another team in the NFL, Jacob, at this point that just can't catch the ball. Like I don't know what's going on here. Trevor Lawrence, he just keeps throwing the ball to Thomas. He keeps dropping it, and everybody else keeps dropping it too. Texans easily could have went down the field and scored. It felt like they were going to tie it and maybe win it, and then they turned the ball over in the end. So the Jaguars are 2-1. Houston is now 0-3, and for the life of me, I can't figure out how Houston's only putting up 8 to 10 points a game, Jacob. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I think it all boils down to Houston. Their offensive line has long been a problem, but they tried to rebuild it during the offseason. They traded Laramie Tunsil, their left tackle, who was their best lineman. He had been coming off a down year. He had a lot of penalties. He's a veteran in his 30s. They traded him to Washington, and they just seemingly haven't recovered from that move. They're moving all these pieces around the offensive line, trying to find the right combination in front of C.J. Stroud. Yet he's been sacked, I think, 8 times through 3 weeks and is just constantly under pressure. So that offense just doesn't have the time it needs to operate an effective passing game. And then their running game is kind of hamstrung by the fact that Joe Mixon is out because Nick Chubb, great backup at this stage in his career, but he doesn't have that same burst he's had as one would expect following the 2 major catastrophic knee injuries he's had dating back to college and his time with the Cleveland Browns. So, you kind of look at that team and you say, man, I don't understand. They have all this talent on offense, but they are missing 2 key components that would make it all work better. So I think that's why they're struggling. But the Jaguars have been pretty painful to watch despite the 2-1 start, as you mentioned. They just have to catch the ball better. If they can do that, I think they would be winning these games more handily, and we'd be talking about them and saying, hey, yeah, this team might be a playoff team. But I kind of came out of this contest a little lower on both of these teams, just saying these teams have some pretty existential problems they have to deal with in the early stages of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, to me, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe it's just not going to happen for him. But the Colts are 3-0, and they've moved into the driver's seat as far as favorites to win the division. That's not what it was 2 weeks ago, but here we are. They're minus 135 to win the AFC South. Jacksonville now still with a shot, clearly at 2-1, but no one's picking Houston or Tennessee. Once you're 0-3, you pretty much don't make the playoffs. All right, so tonight, the Ravens are laying 5.5 points against Detroit. I guess, Jacob, the odds makers are telling us just to believe that the Lions are not the same team on the road as they are at home. Last week, they were fantastic. We saw what they were in week 1. But, I mean, it feels like a big number here. 5.5, total 53.5. I mean, the Ravens played tight with Buffalo. They seemingly have the better team, and I do think that they have the better offense and probably better defense too. But when I see a total of 53.5, I'm just not sure that they can cover this number here. I don't know. What do you make of tonight's game?
So I am rolling with the Ravens at that number. I know it's a little scary. It's a little big. You would look at it and say, hey, these teams should really be like a field goal apart. Why are we talking about them touchdown at this point? But I think when you look at Jared Goff's history of playing outdoors, he just plays worse in the elements than he does in Dome Stadium. Now, I know it's not going to be like freezing in Baltimore or bad weather or anything tonight, but we saw in 2023, I think he went to Baltimore with the Lions in like mid-October for a day game. Weather wasn't too bad, but they got completely stomped. It was 38-6. The Ravens just crushed him. He just struggles in playing outdoors. And against the Ravens in his career, he's played 3 games against the Ravens. He's thrown 120 passes against them, right? He has no passing touchdowns in those games. It's like one of the more remarkable stats for a guy threw 5 touchdowns last week, has been, pretty good as a starter with the Lions, but he's never thrown a touchdown pass against the Ravens. I would anticipate that changes tonight, but I still think that the Ravens, they're an explosive offense. They have the home field advantage. I think, like you said, their defense is a little bit better than the Lions at this point. So I think they find a way to rattle Goff, cover this number, and maybe the Lions can make that a little scary in garbage time if they're down 10 points in the fourth quarter. But I'm going to be siding with the Ravens in this one. I just don't trust Jared Goff playing outside.
All right, fair enough, Jacob. That's why the line is what the line is. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Craig. Take care.
All right, Jacob Kamaker from USA Today. 2 key injuries, by the way, in the National Football League on the offensive side yesterday. One, Arizona Cardinals running back James Conner with an ankle injury. Looks like he could potentially miss the season. Same could be said with an Achilles injury for running back Najee Harris of the Los Angeles Chargers. Joe Ranieri is up next. Don't go away.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had marquee wins at some point
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the 3rd and the 4th spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We'll dive into the latest in the National Football League coming up. A lot of injury notes to get to, and of course, at the top of the hour, we'll have updates on everything going on in the National Football League, some major ones yesterday, especially affecting fantasy football, too. All right, but first, let's dive into some college football here. In case you missed it over the weekend, some big shifts in the AP poll. The top 25 is the biggest win probably goes to the University of Miami Hurricanes as they defeated my Florida Gators. Man, that was tough to watch. As you see, the Hurricanes have moved all the way up in the AP top 25 poll, now amongst the top teams in the country, and we'll see if that is maintained. Ohio State still number 1, Miami up to 2. Oklahoma moves up to 7. Very exciting finish they had against Auburn. And then Indiana all the way up to number 11 after their win against Illinois. So that's the landscape right now of college football. Also, BYU re-enters the top 25 as well. As far as the Gators, my Gators are concerned, my gosh, it feels like a long season is headed here. It was hard to watch that Saturday night. The defense, though, was really the story for the Hurricanes as they beat Florida 26-7. That was the final score there. Pretty, I'd say, mediocre game for Carson Beck and the Hurricanes offense, but, the Gators just basically have shown nothing on offense back-to-back weeks. DJ Lagway throwing for under 100 yards. And Miami deservedly moves up to number 2. Painful for me to say. 24-17 was the final. A very late safety. Speaking of crazy covers this weekend in college football, Oklahoma 6.5-point favorites. They get a safety against Auburn at the end of the game. And 4-0, John Mateer and company. Although Mateer didn't play that well either, I thought, for Oklahoma. But they are 4-0 on the season. How about Fernando Mendoza? 5 touchdown passes. Indiana just crushed Illinois. It was one of the biggest, largest margins of victory for 2 teams that are playing in the top 25. You usually don't see that. The final was 63-10 in that one. And also Clemson, that was a big story this weekend too, is Dabo Swinney last week kind of going in on everyone saying, hey, what are you worried about us losing so much? We've had a lot of success in the past. Not going to be able to continue that. They were 17.5-point home favorites, and they end up losing this game to Syracuse by a final score of 34-21 with college football. A lot of great matchups coming up this week, and I think this is going to be a better week of college football, if I'm not mistaken. All right, Major League Baseball's pennant races continue, and it looks like the National League is going to come down to the final game of the season. That's the way that this is headed, and that's thanks to the New York Mets' absolute debacle of a series against the Washington Nationals. They end up losing yesterday by a run, and they lose 2 out of 3 to the Nats in the series. They fall out of the playoff spot for the first time since April the 5th. Yeah, that goes all the way back to the first week of the season. And the reason why that happened is because the Reds, they finish off a 4-game sweep of the Cubs, and now they are tied with the Mets for the final wild card spot. Also, the Detroit Tigers are scuffling. They get swept by the Braves, and the Guardians win 3 out of 4 from the Twins, so Cleveland is now just 1 game back of the Central. And if this continues for Detroit this week, they could find themselves out completely. We'll see. And also Mariners' Cal Raleigh hit his 58th home run yesterday. That, of course, is the most in Major League Baseball, as Seattle will try to get into the postseason and see how far they can go. Houston also is on the outside looking in as well. Well, in the National Football League last night, in case you missed it, 22-9 was the final as the Chiefs defeated the Giants. The Chiefs had lost 3 straight games going back to the Super Bowl last year, but they ended up getting it together and really shutting down the Giants. We'll see if they end up making a move. Again, 22-9 was the final there. Patrick Mahomes found a new weapon in Tyquan Thornton, so maybe that's a big part of their offense going forward. We will see. But credit to the defense of the Chiefs, as Patrick Mahomes discussed. There's no doubt that they're headed now on the right track.
We just executed better. I mean, I think the first few drives, we drove the ball really well down the football field. We just had mistakes and penalties and, alignment stuff, stuff that we're going to have to clean up for sure. But I feel like we were moving the ball the right way. Kind of struggled there at the end of that second quarter, but was able to get points at the end. But it was just finishing the drives. And I think that's something that's important in this league is getting touchdowns, not field goals. And when you score touchdowns, it looks a lot better than when you're kicking long field goals.
So I thought we battled defensively. Had a good plan. They made a couple nice plays there in the second half, but there's a lot of things improved defensively. Gave us a chance. Thought we did a good job in the kicking game and fell short offensively. We ran the ball much better. Our passing game was not good enough, particularly on third down. So we were like 1 of 10 on third down. That's hard to sustain drives and put points on the board. So. But I thought defensively we did some good things, and in the kicking game we did as well.
Special teams was a big factor in all of the games in the NFL yesterday. No more than the Eagles and Rams, where the Rams missed 2 field goals at the end of the game, had field goals blocked. That led to the Eagles winning. It also led to the Eagles covering the 3.5-point spread. And sometimes these are just how games are won. Here's Nick Sirianni on the very bizarre outcome that led to his team getting yet another win.
That's what, that's what the process is for. And I know our guys respect the process. I know our guys are hungry. I know our guys know that we're going to get people's best shots, which will only make us better. That's a really good football team with really good players. Can't tell you, all the way around, they've done a great job building that football team, and they got phenomenal football coaches. They had us on the ropes, and our guys found a way to keep getting up and found a way.
I'm proud of this football team. I'm excited about the response. This is week 3. We got a lot of growth that we still can have. Came out, took control of the football game. Ultimately, not being able to finish in the red area. We weren't good enough on third downs. Some uncharacteristic, things that we could execute on. And then credit to them. They ended up making some plays. They got back in it. We came out here to win the football game. Those were our expectations. It's a disappointed locker room, but it's a locker room that's going to respond. And so it's week 3. And there's a lot of things that took part in that game. We lost that game as a team. We took the lead as a team. And we're going to, these are the chances to be able to lean in and see what you're really about. And so that's a tough one today. I love this group, and I'm excited about growing. And whether we found a way to make that kick or whether we ended up having that result right there, we got to be able to keep it moving. We've got a lot of football left.
We're going to take a quick time out here on NewsWire. Before we do, get out your phone and scan this QR code. It's the SportsGrid app available for iOS and Android. Just take out your phone, make sure you get it because it's absolutely free. The SportsGrid app available for iOS and Android. Track all your bets via the app. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. We'll be right back after this.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had marquee wins at some point
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the 3rd and the 4th spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire. We got Joe Ranieri in the house. He was watching all of the games yesterday in the National Football League and also spending some time with all of you here on SportsGrid. Great to have you back here, Joe, on NewsWire. We'll see if we could get a lot in a short period of time. So let's get started here. Steelers and Patriots looked like this thing was going to fly over the total yesterday. 2 defenses that couldn't stop anybody, and then they woke up in the second half. But Joe, did they really wake up, or did New England just decide to give away the game by fumbling and throwing interceptions and just felt like absolutely crushing themselves near the goal line. Steelers win 21-14. Felt like more like New England lost this game, though.
It was one of a few there, Craig, that's exactly what the theme was. You're talking about a Patriots team that outgained the Steelers 369-203. But you can't win in this league, and Vrabel said it. You can't turn the ball over 5 times, twice. One in the end zone with an interception, one at the goal line. The other 3, by the way, were in Steeler territory. So while the Steelers defense proved to be opportunistic, you're right. It was the Patriots who ended up losing that game.
Yeah, they did. And the Steelers did a decent job by forcing fumbles and getting a pick. But I watched all the games, but I really was watching this one too. And it just felt like New England handed them some of those turnovers. Speaking of which, handing over turnovers were the Bengals against the Vikings. My gosh, I did not expect this at all. Vikings win 48-10. They needed nothing from their offense at all because the Bengals just kept bengling, throwing picks and fumbling and everything else. And boy, the Bengals last week with that, seal of approval for their quarterback, Jake Browning, man, they can't feel that good about that today. I think, Joe, that there's, first of all, credit to Flores and that defense of the Vikings. Yeah. Maybe they're just going to be able to hang around 500 or a little bit better just by playing D. But the Bengals don't have that D, and they definitely don't have a quarterback. They're in big trouble.
No. I mean, and listen, I thought Browning, he's an experienced guy, but he's thrown 5 interceptions since taking over for Joe Burrow last week. Not to mention he's not getting any help because you talked about it. You had 5 times the ball was put on the ground yesterday in that game by the Bengals, and a lot of big-name guys are coughing it up here, and it just seems like through 3 weeks, and these last 2 games as an example, the little things in the NFL, the tangible things like, holding on to the ball. I don't know if it's shortened preseason, special teams, what it is, but there is a lack of it right now, the fundamentals in the NFL.
Yeah, the Bengals 2-1 and have lost odds on the FanDuel Sportsbook down to 12-1. Obviously, Burrow's a big part of that, but they also have not played well. Let's go to the NFC West. The Rams beat the Eagles in cover in a crazy ending. I'm sure that you were following that. 49ers beat the Cardinals 16-15. They get a late field goal. And then finally, the real Saints showed up in the NFL yesterday, which is, play okay at home. I suspected this, that they'll play at home okay at home this season, Joe. They always play well in New Orleans, but the second they got to leave that dome, I think you're going to see a lot of results like that.
No, that's just awful there. But kudos to Seattle. They were the number 1 survivor pick across contests around the country yesterday, and that proved to be a winning side. But the Rams were another one of those where it just handed the game away. It was one thing to lose the game, but the way they lost the cover yesterday when a 900-pound dude goes rumbling down the field on a blocked field goal, one of 2 blocked field goals in that game, yikes, you got to scratch your head. That was a terrible loss for the Rams, and Arizona did everything in their power to make sure Mac Jones and the 49ers won that game, and that's exactly what they were able to do. Finally, a field goal, Greg, that wasn't blocked that could win the game. Wow, what a novelty idea, huh?
Yeah, rare based on what we've seen in the NFL. Rookies in the NFL, the favorites at the beginning of the season, Cam Ward and Ashton Genty. I feel like neither of those have a shot now to win the Rookie of the Year. Those were the favorites on FanDuel. Emeka Egbuka is now 4-1 to win the Rookie of the Year. He's been the best rookie in the NFL, and I'm not going to rule out Tyler Warren either on Indianapolis. I know he didn't have a big game yesterday, but if they keep winning, he is there. Look, I think Cam Ward long-term, Joe's going to be okay. I have a feeling they're going to clean house again this offseason in Tennessee. But Ashton Genty, I mean, have you seen anything, Joe, that leads you to believe that all of a sudden this guy's going to, have a 200-yard game? He just runs into the ground. I don't know what's going on.
Not if, they talked about wanting to give him the ball more, but if you're down 20 every game, you're not going to be running an awful lot, Craig. That's the problem with Genty here. We're never going to get to see him play from in front.
3 yards a carry, too. That doesn't help. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, guys.
We'll be right back.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last year?
But they had
Notre
marquee
Dame.
wins at some point.
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left, Donnie, for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, our SportsGrid insider is with us, Adam Kaplan, in the house to go over the National Football League, which finally, it feels like it's been a year, honestly, Adam, since we see some teams that are not supposed to win. And look, I understand people get mad at that, oh, you back in the books, that's what the books want. No, I just like the parity. I like going into a week, Adam, in the NFL it doesn't feel like the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Mets, you know? Like, I like the idea that anybody can win. And so when a 7.5 point dog like Cleveland wins, and Carolina, who feels like their season is over, they win outright, I appreciate that in the NFL. It doesn't have to be every week, but I think that's what the NFL was forever until last year. So I'm happy to see some of that back.
Craig, yeah, what they call it is competitive balance. They hate the word parity. I know they've said to me for years, please use competitive balance. That's fine. Look, Carolina, I mean, them shocking Atlanta, shutting Atlanta out 30-0. That's you don't see that. And we'll get to some of the league surprises and disappointments so far. But obviously the craziest game we've seen so far of the 3 weeks is the Eagles game. That one, to me, Craig, I mean, they were so bad in the first half. Every single phase. Special teams. They had 5 kickoff returns where they bobbled the reception, taking it back, because the John Carty, the kicker for the Rams, because the thing now is with the dual returners is try to kick it and lob it up in the air and have it wobble. So the returners, they didn't wind up turning it over, but they bobbled it. So the Eagles' returns were bad. Hurts did not play well. The offense was terrible in the first half. Defense was terrible in the first half. They couldn't stop Kyron Williams. But yet, Craig, at the same time, as bad as they played, they're only down by 12, 19-7. But yet, Craig, they get the ball to start the second half. They don't score. The Rams get it back and score. I'm like, this game's over. I'm going to watch the Phillies game at 4 because they're still trying to get the number 1 seed in the National League, right? They got smoked, as you know, at the Diamondbacks. So it looked terrible. But then they started chipping away, and typically what happens in the NFL, just talking to coaches over the years about this, when you have such a big lead, you're not going to blitz, you're going to back off. Well, the Rams backed off. Dallas Goedert scored a deep middle, really good play from Hurts to Goddard. They started chipping away, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're not going to come back in this game. And then what I would call the miracle at the link happened. 2 blocked field goals, first time in 50 years. They did it, I believe, against the Giants in 1975 or something like that. And it was one of these stunning things when Jordan Davis blocked that kick and returned it, by the way, which you really shouldn't do. You're told just to go down because they have the win, but that's okay. It was cool to see. By the way, he's had a breakout season in his 4th season. Like, everything could go wrong for the Rams. And I know from talking to coaches over the years, when you fly coast to coast, it's a 5.5, 6 hour flight. I could not imagine how miserable that flight back would have been for the Rams, who absolutely dominated the Eagles for 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive with this run that they're on. Let's get to the Colts now. They're 3-0 on the season, Adam, and they win against the Titans. 3-0 teams generally make the postseason. Do you think they're on the right track?
They are. They're in a great division, the easiest division to win, the AFC South, no question about it. Didn't see this. I'll admit it. I didn't see this at all. I did not. I had the Colts. I do what I call win rangers. I had them at 8 or 9 wins. They've surprised me. Daniel Jones, for all the criticism he's gotten, some of it's certainly warranted. But here's the thing: he's not turning the ball over. Okay, no turnovers, 6 touchdowns. They're not punting. I mean, this is just remarkable what they're doing, and it's not just one side of the football. Defensively, they're playing efficiently. They're playing very well. As I mentioned, Jonathan Taylor off to one of the best starts of his career. And remember, Craig, you know this. You and I play fantasy. He was a stud earlier in his career. Then he had the ankle injury. Then he had the contract issue. You wonder if he ever get back to where he once was, and he is. So he's playing well. They're very deep at receiver. Their offensive lines play a little bit better than most people expected. And they've been a surprise. I look, and we look at my disappointment. I mean, the biggest one to me has got to be the Texans. We'll get to them in a minute. I didn't see this. But the Colts now, again, we're only 3 weeks in, right? And they play at the Rams on Sunday. You know they're going to come in pissed off. So, yeah, that's a tough matchup. And this was their first road game, I know, against the Titans. They're a bad football team. But still, indoor teams, outdoors, you wonder about them. But that was a heck of a win yesterday. Dominant, by the way.
Sometimes you hit the wrong button on the mic, Adam. My bad on that one. So the cough button's also a mute button. So we're back. All right, so Packers lose to the Cleveland Browns. It was obviously the biggest surprise of the season in the NFL. 7.5-point spread. Survivor people who were in those contests, I would guess most of them had Seattle. That was the right pick. But I mean, I guess also 10, 15%, maybe 20% of people took the Packers and were like, I'll save some other team later on in the season because the Saints are the worst team in the NFL. Let's not get it twisted. But they give the game away. I mean, Cleveland was a really good pick against the spread, plus a 7.5. I'll say that. But to lose that game the way that the Packers did, that was a stunner too.
It was, and boy, the Browns defense was phenomenal. That was the story of the game. Joe Flacco has just not played all that well so far through 3 games, but the story of the game is Jim Schwartz's defense. They were phenomenal. They got after it, got pressure on Jordan Love, who finally turned it over. Their offense was pitiful. They threw for under 200 yards. They couldn't run the ball as well as they would have liked. They looked out of sync offensively. I'll admit it. I mean, I thought for sure the Packers would win the game. And they were up 10-0 heading to the fourth quarter. I'm like, well, they're not playing well, but they're going to beat the Browns. And I give the Browns credit. And Judkins, their rookie running back, we finally got to see him. He did a great job. And the other thing that surprised me, speaking of the running game, they control the clock. They won the time of possession in a pretty major way. That's not what we're used to with the Packers. So they have to rebound. They just did not play well. That surprised me. I'll admit it. In fact, that was one of the games where I felt like I didn't think the Packers would have any problems because the Browns have been bad offensively, and the Packers have been so good. But look, the Packers, they're finally on the road. They didn't play well. And guess what? They've got the game that they just had, 4 out of their 5 games are away. That coming up here, that's not good when you lose on the road like that and you're going to be away a while.
Yeah, definitely the case. All right, so just quick injuries here. Looks like James Conner of Arizona out for the season. Looks like Najee Harris of the Chargers out for the season. I know what that means for Trey Benson, who I've talked about ad nauseum here on this show forever. I don't want to get that opportunity here based on that, but Benson's going to be their guy. What are the Chargers going to do behind Hampton?
Yeah, well, first of all, when you look at it, Marion Hampton was the starter anyway at running back. That was not really the issue, but when you look at the other situation with Trey Benson, he was a second-round pick out of Florida State who really hasn't played very much. Connor was their bell cow, also really good on third down. So Benson now is going to be their guy. He's the clear starter. They drafted him because of Connor's injury history, and he's an older back that he would eventually start. So the bottom line is right now, Benson's going to be the guy. And by the way, they found it. The Cardinals should have won that game. I picked the right versus the number because it was tight. But the bottom line is the Cardinals have to look at that game. That's a game they should have won. But the Niners are one of 6 teams now that are undefeated. I give the Niners credit. With all the injuries they had, Craig, they found a way to win. And Mac Jones is actually playing pretty good football right now, quarterback.
Yeah, it is. And again, 3-0 teams usually make the playoffs. It's not a matter of the 49ers making it at this point. It's just how far can they go? I mean, that's going to be the question. All right, we'll be back with more from Adam next.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Adam Kaplan, our SportsGrid insider, back with us to dive into our Monday discussion in the National Football League. And, it's just documented, Adam, at this point, if you're 3-0, you're probably going to the playoffs. If you're 0-3, you're probably not. And by probably means a very high probability that you are and you're not. And so one of the surprise teams that is 0-3 has got to be the Houston Texans, who it felt like they kind of were the team like Washington was, where they got Jaden Daniels. Houston got themselves C.J. Stroud, and then they got Nico Collins, and then this offense looked great. But what is going on here? They just can't score points at all. 10 points against Jacksonville. And I understand, look, Chubb is playing for them and Mixon is out, and I get it, but in the NFL, scoring less than 2 touchdowns a game, you're going nowhere, and I don't think that there's anything that's coming in the future that leads me to believe that Houston's going to get back to the team they were a couple of years ago. What is going on?
Yeah, and here's the information I was given by someone who does pro personnel. So when this person looked at that team, he said, look, they've got 4 offensive line changes. A new offensive coordinator, Nick Cali, who came from the Rams, and he's running his version of Sean McVay's system. And it's been a slog. It's been really bad. The person I spoke with said he questioned the passing game concepts. Nico Collins is an absolute stud. There's no question about it. But it's only 3 games, so you need a bigger sample size. They don't run it well. They don't protect well. Stroud, this is 2 straight seasons where what are they doing to help them? Remember Nick Caserio, the general manager, traded their franchise left tackle Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders, and he's got Usuri, the rookie, the second rounder, now starting at left tackle. They're a work in progress. Their talent level, though, at wide receiver and tight end would tell you that they should be way better, as you said. But they're my number 1 disappointment in the National Football League, the Houston Texans. I am stunned by this, that they're this bad. Their defense is really good. They keep them in games.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that could happen, Craig, is if by midseason it's still clear that the offense is bringing the defense down. I'm not saying this will happen, but I know with other teams over the years, the defenses typically point to the offense, and the players sometimes have issues with each other. And you've got DeMeco Ryans is a good young head coach who played in the league, obviously a great player for many years. It doesn't look good right now. It does not look good. And Bobby Slowick was the offensive coordinator 2 years ago, and he was the darling of the NFL. He was fired after last season. So, yeah, they're a train wreck right now. It's only 3 weeks. But, by the way, the percentages since 1990, 35 years, 2.4% chance to make the playoffs at 0-3. Good luck.
Yeah, same thing could be said, by the way. This division is just kind of quirky because I wasn't planning on doing this with you, but I did see a comment yesterday. Some people are saying, Adam, that with the dismissal of Rand Carthon in Tennessee, that the Titans, who are 0-3, that Brian Callahan all of a sudden, maybe even has moved ahead of Mike McDaniel as far as potentially head coaches being let go. I don't know that that's even fair to him, but, new GM, new coach. The Titans honestly look terrible, Adam, like awful offensively, defensively, and I believe in Cam Ward. I do think that this is going to work for him eventually, even more than I do maybe with Caleb Williams or Bryce Young. I saw every game Cam Ward played last year. But another 0-3 team like Tennessee that I don't even, or like Houston, that I have zero faith that they may go like 2-15 or something like that. And they look terrible. They should have been much more in that game yesterday.
Yeah, they got blown. They got embarrassed at home. That was bad. And the Colts absolutely, scoring over 40 points in Nashville is bad. And the fans have turned on them a little bit from what I understand. So the thought around the league was this is a 6 or 7 win team. The roster this year is better than last year's, but it's a below average roster. And they're getting well below average results, and that's not acceptable. Now, look, you're right. They're trying to develop a rookie quarterback. It's hard. This front office, they actually have. It's really interesting. They have a veteran front office. Mike Berganzi came over from the Chiefs, who's won a bunch of Super Bowls, right? Mm-hmm. Chad Brinker came over from the Packers. Scott Cohen, who does their analytics, it's been in the league a long time. They've got Reggie McKenzie, who's won a lot, and particularly with the Packers. So there are a lot of people in their front office, but here's the thing, as you said, we should point this out, it's important. They didn't ever work with Brian Callahan. So they have to get to know him. This roster's still not very good. They need help. They need to help Calvin Ridley at receiver. They're not good enough at tight end. Defensively, where are the pass rushers? Lack of pass rush help is a major problem. This is well known in the league coming into the draft. They did address it with a kid from UCLA as a second rounder. Oladeo, but man, they're just not good. You're absolutely right. They're a bad football team, but Cam Ward is very talented. They got to give him help. But the thing with Brian Callahan is, look, they're not a 10-win team. If they're 6 or 7 wins and Ward's getting developed, they're not going to fire the head coach. Right. But right now, after 3 games, they're not really very competitive. That's the problem.
Yeah. And again, I think we knew going into the season that the Saints were going to be horrendous and lose a lot of games horrendously. And that's okay because no one's going to be upset about that. But the Titans, on the other hand, were like, all right, maybe they could win a few games. No one really had that same take, I think, it's fair to say. All right, tonight's game, is this the Goff outdoors game, or is this just more of the same for Detroit? They play at Baltimore. Total is 53.5. Odds makers are saying high-scoring game, but Baltimore will put up a lot of points against Detroit. That's kind of what the narrative is going into tonight. I can't believe Detroit, who's been one of the best teams in the NFL, would ever be getting 5.5 points in an NFL game, but here they are tonight against the Ravens. They're going to have to stop Derrick Henry. If they don't, then this is going to just be a blowout probably.
Yeah, no, 2 years ago, the Lions were the darling of the league, but they get absolutely embarrassed, I think 38-6 in October of 2023 at Baltimore. Baltimore's tough to it's just tough. It's one of the hardest places to play. Yeah, you talk about Goff outdoors. More often than not, he's not very good outdoors, but last week, he was incredible at home. They embarrassed the Bears, ran up the score a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tough. They're not very good at corner. Now, the one concern, depending on which book you look at, it's 4.5 or 5.5, but likely he's out, or he just started practice coming off the broken foot. Matabuki, their best defensive player, he's out with a neck injury. Van Noy, their best pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers, out with a hamstring injury. That does worry me, because if you love Baltimore at home, like most people, you're like, well, they're not going to have a problem. But these are key players that are out, and that would concern me a little bit.
Adam, great stuff as always, and great to catch up with you. And I know that we'll have a lot of fun coming up this week in the NFL with all the games, including an early morning Sunday game as well. Thanks for coming on Newswire.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Adam Kaplan with us, our Sports Grid insider. All right, coming up next, it's time for some last licks. Keenan Allen catches a touchdown, wants to give it to his family. It didn't work out exactly the way he planned. Talk about that next.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Monday afternoon is usually a time we get a lot of news on injuries in the National Football League, and we try to bring them to you. I'm sure coming up later today, you'll get more of that on game time decisions. But another one in the NFL is CeeDee Lamb, who left the game yesterday for the Dallas Cowboys against the Chicago Bears. He's being diagnosed with a high ankle sprain. That's not the kind of injury where you play the following week, so I would guess CeeDee Lamb probably going to miss this week's game for the Dallas Cowboys. Another tough injury in the National Football League. All right, as we get ready to wrap up the show, we will talk a little Dodgers baseball, a team that's headed to the postseason and trying to win back-to-back World Series. And also, we will discuss what it is like to catch a touchdown pass in the NFL and have it taken away from you when trying to give it to somebody you love. Time now for some Last Licks. So the Dodgers appear to be headed toward the postseason, but probably not going to be getting that bye in the first round. It looks like that's going to be going to the Milwaukee Brewers and then most likely the Philadelphia Phillies, although crazier things have happened. But right now the Dodgers on the outside of that looking in. So they'll probably get some home games coming up in the wild card round pretty quick. But yesterday on the final home game of the season, the Dodgers passed the 4 million fan mark in attendance for the first time in franchise history. 1 million's an okay number. They had 4 million this season. Dodgers 2025 regular season total attendance figure, folks, here it is, 4,012,470. If you're doing the math on 162 games, that averages out to 49,537 fans per game. That's like an NFL game. I mean, Major League Baseball these days, if you're getting 20,000 a night, you're doing great. And 50,000 a night at Chavez Ravine in Dodger Stadium. So it just goes to show you the commitment, both financially and in the win column for the Dodgers, has led to a lot of people just showing up for those games. It's been a must-see event every single night. Of course, Shohei Ohtani is there, but it's not just that. They're winning a lot of games. They're winning division titles, and maybe they'll win another World Series. We will see. But the Dodgers, congrats to them. Almost 50,000 fans per game this season, breaking all kinds of records. All right, Keenan Allen was a longtime Charger, you may remember. Los Angeles Charger, San Diego Charger. And then he signed a one-year contract with the Chicago Bears, did not work out, and so he now is back with the Chargers and is definitely finding his way again with Justin Herbert. He's off to a really good start this season. In fact, so much so that Keenan Allen caught a touchdown pass. He's done that already a couple times this year in 3 games. And then at the end of the touchdown, he went to go ahead and throw the ball into the stands because his wife was there and she was in the end zone waiting for the ball. But the only problem was that a guy jumped out in front of her, grabbed the football, and bailed. Just bailed. So, like, this is a tough one because, yes, it is a football. You get caught up in the moment, but there's no question who that football was intended to, and it happens to be Keenan Allen's wife. So, cooler heads did prevail. Allen's wife went on Instagram, went on social media saying, hey, the guy gave me the football back. He now knew it was for me. He apologized several times. And so in the end, the right person ends up getting the football. Not that this is really worth a ton in the NFL. Like, what's a Keenan Allen touchdown worth? $500, $1,000? I don't know. So that's nothing life-changing. So good to see that ended up happening. And as I said, cooler heads prevail. Okay, so tough way to end the show today, because one of our very own, Dave Sharapan, who has been a host here on SportsGrid for many, many years, lost his battle with cancer yesterday and ended up passing away. I've worked with Dave for many years here at SportsGrid, always super kind to me, always a smile on his face, wonderful family with 3 girls, of course, he leaves behind, and his wife, and battled with cancer. Just a heartbreaking day for all of us here at SportsGrid yesterday, just because of how much he not only meant to SportsGrid, but also meant in life to the community. Touched so many people, always a smile on his face. And I feel just privileged that I had a chance to know Dave and get to work with him here at SportsGrid on different shows. Always had a kind word for me, whether I was working here at SportsGrid or breaking some news in baseball. And, we talked many times, both on and off the air. Consider Dave a friend, and I wish him and his wife, certainly my condolences on behalf of SportsGrid and on behalf of my family too, to see somebody going through what he went through and fighting it as bravely as he did. But unfortunately, rest in peace, Dave Sharapan, who passed away at the young age of 55 years old yesterday. All right, folks, that will do it for our show today. Hate to leave you on that note, but pass on your condolences to the Sharapan family if you can. Thanks again to Luke. For my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Hope to see you back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire. That's every single day, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, here on SportsGrid. See you then.